Dale Earnhardt Jr. is one of the most beloved figures in NASCAR history. Look no further than his winning the Cup Series Most Popular Driver award for 15 consecutive seasons. Since retiring from full-time racing several years ago, the two-time Daytona 500 winner is still a very important player in the sport, with his work as an analyst for NBC's NASCAR coverage and his weekly podcast. Speaking of NASCAR coverage, not many have done it longer than Mike Joy, who is unbelievably in his fifth decade and has worked 43 Daytona 500s. His voice has been the voice of Fox NASCAR broadcast since 1998. This week, the two respected NASCAR names jumped into a conversation on social media about a long-time tradition in the sport: post-race interviews. Joy was initially included in the conversation when a fan tagged the announcer in response to another fan's tweet about how he missed the post-race interview happening with confetti, drinks flying, and the team celebrating in victory lane. Joy, who is outspoken on Twitter as he recently blasted a sports website for writing clickbait stories, didn't hesitate in offering his thoughts on the subject. TV and NASCAR agreed on interviewing the winner at start-finish, capturing immediate raw emotion and sharing it with fans close by, Joy wrote. It also eliminates a sometimes long and uncomfortable pause getting the winning car to victory lane. We often show shots from the victory lane celebration. Surprisingly, the 72-year-old announcer wasn't finished. The next day, he followed up with another tweet on the subject. "Victory lane got to be a joke," Joy tweeted. "People drape a towel on the driver covering up his sponsors, put hats on his head, change them mid-interview, stack crap on the roof of the car, and even put up a fence so he couldn't swat competing brands off his roof. Sad fight for TV airtime." Joy is referencing things that happened in past victory lane celebrations, sometimes quite a way back in the past, and not perceived as an issue by most fans. Interestingly, Dale Earnhardt Jr. joined the same conversation through a different thread and offered a dramatically different position on the post-race interview and one uniquely from the driver's perspective. "Have to agree that this does more for me than the often awkward front stretch interviews," Earnhardt wrote. "The first thing a driver usually wants to do after taking the checkered flag is get to his crew to celebrate. It's a special moment." Joy prefers interviews on the front stretch. Earnhardt enjoys them in victory lane. Who is right? The fans spoke up in an unofficial Twitter poll that included more than 1,500 votes and overwhelmingly sided with Jr. by a margin of 86% to 13%. Jr. and the fans agree that front stretch interviews are not a good idea. So does Brandon Brown. The Xfinity Series driver saw what should have unquestionably been the highlight of his racing career thus far with his win at Talladega last year turn into a nightmare, where he found himself in the middle of a political divide through no fault of his own, but through a front stretch interview that went horribly wrong. Had it happened in victory lane, it's safe to say "Let's go Brandon" never becomes a thing.